Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, Seoul says it's running out of patience and urges Pyongyang to agree to its final proposal for talks to reopen the joint Kaesong industrial complex. It also lays out the cost of damages on South Korean businesses from the 4-month-long shutdown. In his inauguration speech, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani calls on Western nations to lift sanctions and show his country respect. Washington says it's open to negotiations so long as Tehran meets international commitments to end its nuclear programs. Plus, US lawmakers warn recent intelligence indicates the terror threat against the US and its Western allies is as high as that observed before the September 11th attacks in 2001. Washington has issued a global travel alert for US citizens. Daybreak begins now.
Good to have you with us. You're watching Daybreak on Monday, August 5th here in Seoul, and I'm Choi Yu-sun. Let's start things off this morning with Seoul's ultimatum to Pyongyang. South Korea urged North Korea on Sunday to accept its week-long offer for final talks on reopening the joint Kaesong industrial complex, saying the South Korean people have reached their limit of patience.
If North Korea truly considers the Kaesong industrial complex to be the cornerstone of inter-Korean relations, it should not stay silent but show its will through responsible words and actions.
South Korea suggested holding the 7th round of talks on the suspended Kaesong Business Park last Monday, but North Korea has not yet responded. 4 months into the North's unilateral closure, Seoul plans to review insurance claims by South Korean resident companies in Kaesong until later today and pay the insurance money to the businesses as early as this week. Once companies receive compensation, the ownership of factories and related assets will be taken over by the state-run Export-Import Bank of Korea. Submarines are classified in most countries as top-secret strategic weapons. Their greatest strength is that they can approach and attack enemy targets covertly. But the South Korean Navy has recently revealed one of its ships, demonstrating its powers, but not without concerns. Our Kim Hyun-bin has more.
On this 1,800-ton Anjungun submarine, an order to dive is called out. Within a matter of seconds, the submarine disappears underwater. After exploring the waters, the submarine detects an enemy vessel and locks it down as a target. It then secretly approaches the vessel and launches a torpedo, sinking the ship. The mission is a success.
Submariners are designed to deter North Korea's provocation in the deep sea and are currently playing a big role in securing our national interests.
Submarines are key strategic weapons, but from the inside, they look cramped and all but easy to work in. With tiny bunks and a cafeteria, 40 crew members have to live in these tight quarters for months at a time. But it's not just about the size of the submarines. One of the greatest challenges is that South Korea only has 10 submarines, while North Korea has 7 times more. Experts say that Seoul needs to increase its numbers in order to engage in a fair fight. Since the 80s, there were 7 confirmed cases of submarine provocations from the north, and many more that went unconfirmed. According to the South's Navy, it is scheduled to produce more submarines to better prepare for North Korea's threats underwater. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Damage from last month's heavy rain in North Korea seems to be having an impact on the country's annual summer military exercises. South Korean government sources say troops in the north have been ordered to restore damage caused by the heavy rain. Up to 900 millimeters of rain fell in parts of North Korea in July, killing roughly 60 people and destroying over 100 square kilometers of farmland, while flooding more than 26,000 buildings. North Korea is known for conducting large-scale military exercise around this time of the year, but with damage caused by heavy rain, the country is focusing on restoration efforts. Here in Seoul, the Bank of Korea is expected to freeze the key interest rate in August due to expectations of a gradual economic recovery. The central bank had kept the interest rate unchanged for 2 straight months in July amid uncertainty over possible tapering of the U.S. Federal Reserve's quantitative easing. Last month, it left the benchmark 7-day rate steady at 2.5%. Analysts say the August outlook comes as the economy grew at the fastest pace in more than 2 years, with the GDP growing 2.3% in the second quarter. But they added the BOK may consider a hike if the U.S. cuts back on its quantitative easing measures, which might trigger an exodus of foreign capital from the local market. The government is working on measures to help increase the supply of long-term rented homes on the so-called jeonse system and expand financial assistance for seekers of those rental homes. The decision comes as prices of these properties continue to soar despite it being the off-season for transactions. According to Kookmin, the country's top mortgage lender, the nation's jeonse prices have surged nearly 31% from the end of 2008. This is triple the price growth of home purchases during the same period. The jeonse price hikes come as demand far outpaces supply. The jeonse system of rent is unique to Korea. Instead of paying monthly rent, a renter makes a lump sum deposit on a rental space. 6 weeks of the summer monsoon season has just ended and sweltering heat has taken its place here on the Korean peninsula. As a result, more and more Koreans will crank up their air conditioners, meaning a potential spike in the nation's electricity consumption. Our Park Ji-won tells us what the government is doing to keep the nation's energy supply sustainable.
The Korean government is gearing up for skyrocketing power demand, which is expected to reach its peak in early August, from this Monday to Friday. As the monsoon season ends, a sweltering heat wave is expected to hit the peninsula, and the nation's power reserves could be at risk. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy says the nation's power reserves during early August could plunge to a minus level, and the situation could continue throughout the month. To avoid a national power shortage, the government has come up with power-saving measures to curb energy consumption. The government will regulate businesses that excessively consume power and plans to introduce a flexible pricing system for electricity that will charge a higher rate for electricity consumed during daily peak hours. The nation's public and state-run institutions will also join the government campaign. Private businesses have already been restricted in their energy use. The government is requiring they keep their indoor temperature at 26 degrees Celsius or higher. With these measures and more, the government hopes to keep the nation's power reserves above 4 billion kilowatts, which is a stable level throughout the month. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations.
President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has urged the West to drop its sanctions against Iran and treat his country with respect. Congratulating Rouhani on his inauguration, the U.S. said it is open to negotiations if Iran takes serious steps to scrap its nuclear program. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Iran's new president Hassan Rouhani has emphasized dialogue over sanctions when it comes to resolving the country's nuclear issue. In his inauguration speech to parliament on Sunday, Rouhani called on Western powers to drop their sanctions on Iran and engage with his country in a respectful way. In response, the U.S. said it was willing to work with Iran on its nuclear concerns if it is willing to engage seriously on the issue. White House spokesman Jay Carney said the inauguration of Rouhani Rouhani, seen as more moderate than his predecessor Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, presents an opportunity for Tehran to engage with its international obligations and concerns surrounding its nuclear program. Rouhani started his 4-year term as Iran's 11th president on Sunday, with high hopes of more interaction with the international community to resolve its nuclear program and ease sanctions that have impacted the country's oil exports. Iranian state media reported 11 foreign presidents attended Rouhani's swearing-in, including North Korea's ceremonial president Kim Jong-nam. North Korea and Iran have close ties, with both countries affected by sanctions imposed by the U.S. and its allies. One of the Western officials in attendance at the ceremony was Javier Solana, a former EU foreign policy chief. Solana and Rouhani have maintained a close relationship as they used to work together when Rouhani was Iran's chief negotiator on nuclear issues. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
U.S. politicians have warned that terror threat against the U.S. and its Western allies has been risen to levels not seen since just before the 9/11 attacks on New York and Washington. In an interview with NBC on Sunday, Vice Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Saxby Chambliss, said the current terror threat, measured by the amount of chatter, reminded him of what he saw in the run-up to the 9/11. Chairman of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence, Peter King, also warned the security threat from al-Qaeda is very specific and that there's very little doubt some serious attack planning is going on. A member of the House Intelligence Committee also said a major attack is being mentioned among high-level al-Qaeda members in the Arabian Peninsula. The terror threat prompted Washington to issue a global travel alert and take the unprecedented step of shutting down more than 20 U.S. embassies around the world on Sunday. In a rare intervention by the White House, President Obama's trade representative has vetoed a ban on the sale of some of Apple's products, stopping it from going into effect and dealing a blow to Samsung Electronics. In June, the U.S. International Trade Commission ordered a ban on older Apple products that worked with AT&T networks after they found Apple had infringed a patent owned by Samsung related to the transmission of data over cellular networks. Samsung expressed disappointment over the decision, saying the Trade Commission had correctly recognized it has been negotiating in good faith, while Apple remains unwilling to license the technology. As you would expect, Apple welcomed the decision. Another senior Japanese politician has announced that she plans to visit the controversial Yasukuni Shrine on August 15th, the anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II and Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. Japan's Asahi Shimbun reports that chairman of the Liberal Democratic Party's Policy Research Council, Sanae Takaishi, will visit the shrine on the day. She will join Japan's Administrative Reform Minister Tomomi Ienada, who has already announced her intent to go. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has said he will not visit this year to avoid damaging relations with Korea and China. The Yasukuni Shrine honors Japan's war dead, including 14 Class A war criminals from World War II, and is the regular cause of great diplomatic friction between Tokyo and its neighbors, which were victims of Japan's wartime atrocities. Korea has issued a warning for red tide, which is severely damaging the country's southern and eastern coast. The government issued a red tide alert for the first time in 6 years last month due to the gradual destruction in the eastern coast. According to the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, local governments reported roughly 14 billion won or $13 million of damage, and the ministry added the red tide is expected to continue to spread. A red tide is a natural phenomenon caused by the combination of high temperatures, salinity, and nutrients, and when met with low winds and certain rain levels, toxic bacteria called Gymnodinium breve algae is formed, which then multiplies rapidly. Some of Broadway's biggest musicals have kicked off the hearts of Seoul here in the capital, with even more slated to debut later this summer. From Disney's High School Musical to Monty Python classics, Sar Polly gives us a sneak peek behind the curtain.
King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table have traveled back in time to give an unforgettable performance of comedy and witty satire. The Korean adaptation of the 1975 film Monty Python and the Holy Grail is currently being performed at the Tucson Arts Center in Seoul. The Tony Award-winning parody musical has been specifically tailored for local audiences, as it pokes fun at the nation's K-pop industry and other popular musicals.
I call on everyone to consider the musical Spamalot. It's an artistic piece that breaks the common stereotypes of musicals. I can confidently say that the performances will bring immediate laughter and smiles to all audiences.
The Korean production of High School Musical is in full swing at Samsung's Blue Square Hall and will run through September 1st. The popular musical has resonated with fans worldwide, as the story deals with youth, love, and friendship. The passionate upbeat drama also features some of Korea's hottest idol stars, including Super Junior's Lo-wook and AOA's Cho-ah.
It's not just for teenagers. People of all ages in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s will be able to enjoy this refreshing musical during the summer. I promise to do my best and work hard to elevate the performance to the highest standard.
Speaking of other adaptations of beloved musicals, the Yohengja Theater Company will be showcasing its Korean rendition of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream starting on August 15th at the Seoul Namsan Traditional Theater. The stylistic adaptation draws its inspiration from traditional Korean folklore. And lastly, the Seoul Arts Center will be hosting the Asian premiere of the stage opera Tornado on August 9th. The Italian opera was first written in 1926 and set in ancient China, giving local audiences a truly multicultural spectacle. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we start things off in the Women's British Open. Of course, the nation hoping for a season grand slam from Park In-bi, but she never recovered after a poor showing in the back nine in the first round. Now, the 25-year-old has a decent showing in the first three rounds of play, but the last round just terrible. Park starts off with a double bogey on the first hole, followed by 6 bogeys in the next 17 holes. Finishes off shooting a 6 over par tie for 42nd. Meanwhile, Chen Na-yeon and Park Hee-young looking great in the event, but just fall short, with both Koreans finishing off tied for second place. Now, after 72 holes in 4 days, American Stacey Lewis comes out on top, taking the Women's British Open title, shooting 8 under par overall for the win. Now, another big event many Koreans were looking forward to this past weekend, the Korean Zombie Chung Chang-sung going after the UFC Featherweight Championship against Jose Aldo. Now, the South Korean fighter had the skills and the technique in the fight, but no luck. The UFC Featherweight champion breaks his foot during the fight, and the Korean Zombie continued to press, but the South Korean dislocates its right shoulder in the 4th round of the fight, leading to a TKO victory for the Brazilian champ. Now, sources say that the injury will sideline the Korean Zombie for at least 6 months, as he hopes to recover and get another title shot in the future. And now moving on to some Sunday night KBO action as we kick things off with the red-hot Tucson Bears taking on the SK Wyverns in Incheon. Of course, going into the game here, first inning, SK draws first blood thanks to Chejung's RBI single to right as SK takes an early 1-0 lead. Next inning, Yang Yi-ji at bat, RBI double to left field, ties the ballgame 1-1. Now we shift over to the 5th inning, Im Jae-chul at bat, RBI single to right, gives the Tucson Bears the 2-1 lead. I'm going to shift over to the 6th inning here. We have a ground ball in the play. Third baseman bobble, everyone safe. Cho Dong-hwa scores, and the ball game's tied at 2 apiece. Now close game throughout the night, but we go over to the 9th inning of the game. Kim Hyun-soo deep to straightaway center field. A 2-run shot as Tucson takes the lead 4-2. Now Tucson would add another run in the same inning as the Tucson Bears take this game 5-2. And next up, the LG Twins taking on the Samsung Lions. Second inning, Kang Myung-gu RBI ground out to second base gives the Samsung Lions the early 1-0 lead before Jin Gak-yong RBI single to left field makes it 2-0 Samsung Lions. Now we're going to stay in the same inning. LG Twins Chung Sung-un at bat. RBI double to left field line cuts the deficit to 2-1. Now we're going to shift over to the fourth inning of the game. Chung Hee-yoon at bat. Solo shot to left field. This ties the ball game. Next batter, we have Oh-ji Won here. Next play, it's going to be a 4-6-3 double play. This scores another run as the LG Twins take a 3-2 lead. Now we go to the sixth inning, tied 3-3. Yoon Oh-sup sparks a 4-run sixth inning here with a 2-run single. And we're going to shift over once again. A lot of runs being scored. Eighth inning, Samsung continues to keep it close with Woo Dong-gyun's 2-run single to right, but the LG Twins not letting them have it. This next batter, of course, Yoon Oh-sup having a great night. This one deep to left field, back. Gone a 2-run shot as the LG Twins take this series 9-6, your final score. Now also, the Kia Tigers were able to shut out the Nexen Heroes on Sunday with a 6-0 win, with Kim Jin-woo getting the win in the game. Of course, with that said, we're going to shift over to the K-League Classic. The Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors took on Gangwon FC, so let's take a look at the highlights. Of course, going into the game itself, this one is going to be a high-scoring game, but the 19th minute of the match, Choi Jin-ho finds the back of the net as Gangwon takes the lead, 1-0. Now, Gangwon fails to hold on to the lead as Kevin Orris scores for Jeonbuk as the match is tied 1-1 after the first half. Now, the match, of course, is going to remain at 1-1 until Jeonbuk goes on a tear in the last 10 minutes of the match, with Chung In-hwan making it 2-1 Jeonbuk in the 82nd minute. Not done yet. This time, Song Jae-hun, let's make that 3-1 Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors. But now we're not done. More scoring, 89th minute of the match. Lee Seung-gi, not the singer, but the goal scorer, 4-1 Jeonbuk. And that's your final score as Jeonbuk takes this match 4-1. And next up, Seongnam Ilhwa Cheonma taking on the Daejeon Citizens in this game. We go over to Kim Dong-sup in the 43rd header. Finds the back of the net as Seongnam takes the lead 1-0 after the first half. Now we're going to go over to the second half of the match. Lee Jong-won makes it 2-0 Seongnam as he sneaks one past in the 51st minute. But wait up, here comes the Daejeon Citizens in the game. 3 minutes later, Arias scores one to cut the deficit to 2-1. But more goals in the game. An equalizer from Daejeon. Yoon Won-il gets one in the 70th minute of the match as both teams try to get the game winner. But after 90 minutes, this match is a draw, 2-2. And now we're going to finish things off in basketball with the Asian Basketball Championships currently taking place. Korea is set to face off against Bahrain later tonight in the round of 12 match. Now, Korea is coming off of a big win against China last week as they're set to face off against Kazakhstan on Tuesday, followed by India on Wednesday. Now, with that said, it's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. See you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather updates. Well, yesterday, Korea Met Office officially announced that this year's monsoon season is over here in South Korea, but we'll still receive heavy passing showers at times throughout the rest of summer. Now, today it will be as hot and sticky as over the weekend, and daytime highs will be soaring up to 30s in almost all regions. So we'll continue to see blistering weather with partly cloudy skies all day long, with a chance of passing showers in Seoul and surrounding areas due to slight instability. Now, tomorrow's forecast is calling for partly to mostly sunny skies, and isolated rain showers are on tap in Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi province. But tomorrow should be the last round of showers this week because we are not seeing any rain chances for the rest of the week, but definite rise in temperatures. Now, back to today's forecast, we will be under the influence of the edge of high pressure system, so clouds will be passing by the peninsula, and it's quite misty outside, especially in the west coast. So watch out for the low visibility out on the roads, and the humidity this morning will be 85% on average. Now, heat wave warning and advisory will be expanded regions down south. So with that, let's take a closer look at today's region. readings. Now, the capital and Gwangju will climb up to 31 degrees Celsius, that's 88 degrees Fahrenheit, and Busan will get up to 32. Now, let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will reach 32, which is a couple of degrees lower than last couple of days, and Daejeon and Mount Kumgang will hike up to 31. Now, that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. Well, we could see a few passing showers during the day, so don't forget to carry out small umbrellas on your morning commute. Have a wonderful Monday, and back to you, Yusan, in the studio.
Thank you, Jian, and those are the stories we're following at this hour. Thank you for watching.